Most people over 50 reach a stage where they begin to care deeply about every small choice they make at the grocery store. They start reading labels, switching to whole grains, adding more fruits, more nuts, more anti-inflammatory foods. They believe they are doing everything right. But what if some of these so-called healthy choices are quietly feeding the very inflammation that worsens the stiffness in your knees, the swelling in your fingers, the aching in your hips? What if the foods you trust most, the ones wrapped in words like natural and organic one or heart healthy, are slowly intensifying your arthritis without you realizing it? That is a difficult truth to face, especially when you've been told your entire life that health comes from discipline, from eating clean, from choosing wisely. Yet sometimes the body does not respond to good intentions. It responds to chemistry. And the chemistry of certain foods, even healthy ones, can trigger the same silent inflammation that keeps you from walking comfortably, from opening jars, from sleeping through the night without pain. Arthritis is not just the story of aging joints. It is the story of microscopic wars inside your body, immune cells misfiring, cartilage breaking down, and a cascade of inflammation flooding your tissues. These battles are invisible but real, and here's the truth most people never hear. Inflammation doesn't only come from genetics or injury. It comes from what you eat day after day. Every bite can either calm your immune system or provoke it. And while doctors often recommend anti-inflammatory diets, many of the foods included in those diets can backfire in subtle, surprising ways. For example, did you know that certain fruits high in natural sugars can elevate uric acid levels? The same compound responsible for gout-like pain in arthritic joints, or that some popular vegetable oils, promoted as light and heart-friendly, actually contain high amounts of omega-6 fatty acids that fuel inflammation instead of fighting it. Picture this. You wake up early, proud of your new healthy routine. You pour a bowl of whole grain cereal with almond milk, sprinkle it with raisins, maybe drizzle a bit of honey. You feel good about it. It's plant-based, full of fiber and low in cholesterol. But inside your body, something else is happening. The almond milk you chose, ultra-processed and stabilized for shelf life, contains gums and emulsifiers that disrupt your gut lining, the very barrier that protects your immune system from overreacting. The raisins and honey spike your blood sugar quickly, and high blood sugar, in turn, leads to an inflammatory response. Even the whole grains, rich in lectins and phytates, can irritate sensitive joint tissue in those already struggling with inflammation. So, while your breakfast looks like wellness, your body feels like inflammation. And that's where the misunderstanding begins. For decades, the conversation around arthritis has focused mainly on pain management, pills, creams, supplements, physical therapy. But few people ever ask why inflammation keeps returning, even after they've removed processed foods or red meat. The reason is simple. The inflammatory triggers have evolved. They've been rebranded. Many modern, healthy products are heavily marketed, yet quietly processed in ways that disturb the body's natural balance. The average American over 50 consumes more additives, more synthetic stabilizers, and more omega-6 rich oils than any generation before. Not from junk food, but from foods labeled as clean. Granola bars with sunflower oil, plant-based spreads rich in canola, smoothies with fruit concentrates and soy protein isolates. Each of these ingredients may look harmless, but together they feed chronic inflammation, the hidden engine behind joint pain. Now imagine inflammation as fire. When you're young, your body has plenty of firefighters, antioxidants, strong cartilage, good circulation. But as you age, those firefighters grow fewer, slower, more tired. The problem is that the fire doesn't stop, it just smolders. Every inflammatory food you eat adds another spark, another ember. Over time, these sparks build up into a steady burn that damages cartilage and bone, leading to stiffness and swelling. You may not notice it at first, just a little soreness after walking, a little stiffness when it rains. But as the months pass, the pain becomes part of your identity. You call it getting older. You call it arthritis. But the truth is, your body is not attacking itself out of cruelty. It's reacting to a pattern, one you can break once you understand it. Let's start with one of the most misleading culprits, certain plant oils. You see them everywhere. Sunflower, safflower, corn, soybean. They are praised for being cholesterol-free and low in saturated fat. Yet chemically, these oils are rich in linoleic acid, an omega-6 fatty acid that the body converts into arachidonic acid, a key ingredient in the production of inflammatory compounds called prostaglandins. These prostaglandins act like microscopic alarm bells, signaling the immune system to inflame the area around your joints. A small amount of omega-6 is necessary for health, but the modern diet delivers far too much, often 10 to 20 times more than omega-3 fats. And when that balance tips, the body becomes primed for inflammation. It's not your fault. These oils are cheap, shelf-stable, and found in nearly every healthy snack, from baked chips to vegan dressings. So even if you cook clean at home, those hidden sources can quietly fuel your pain. Then there are the healthy dairy alternatives: almond, soy, oat, and coconut milks. While these seem gentle on the body, most commercial versions are processed with gums, thickeners, and synthetic vitamins that can irritate the gut lining. Why does that matter? Because 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. When your gut becomes inflamed, your immune cells misinterpret signals and trigger systemic inflammation, including in your joints. That's why some people notice more stiffness after switching to plant milks, even though they've reduced animal fat. Their bodies are reacting not to the plants themselves, but to the industrial processing of those plants. And when gut inflammation joins joint inflammation, pain becomes persistent. Even the humble tomato, celebrated as a superfood, can be problematic for those with arthritis. Tomatoes, along with potatoes, eggplants, and peppers, belong to the nightshade family. They contain alkaloids like solanine, which in some sensitive individuals can trigger joint pain or swelling. Not everyone reacts this way, but for those who do, the effect is real. You may notice that on days when you enjoy tomato soup or roasted peppers, your fingers feel thicker, stiffer the next morning. This reaction is not in your head, it's biochemical. The alkaloids interact with calcium metabolism and can irritate joint tissue in people with certain immune sensitivities. It's subtle, cumulative, and often mistaken for just aging. Now think about fruit. You've always been told that fruit is nature's candy, rich in antioxidants and vitamins. And that's true, in moderation. But many over 50 diets lean heavily on fruit smoothies, fruit juices, and dried fruits, all of which deliver concentrated fructose. High fructose intake raises uric acid levels, which can accumulate in joints as sharp crystals, particularly in the toes, ankles, and knees. These uric acid crystals act like tiny glass shards scraping against cartilage, causing pain that mimics or worsens arthritis. So when you drink a healthy morning juice blend with apples, grapes, and pineapple, your body may experience it as an inflammatory storm rather than nourishment. The solution isn't to avoid fruit entirely. It's to respect its chemistry and choose low fructose options like berries or green apples, eaten whole rather than juiced. Another misunderstood category is whole grains. While they are healthier than refined grains in many ways, they contain natural compounds called lectins and phytates. In people with sensitive immune systems, these compounds can irritate the intestinal lining and interfere with mineral absorption, leading to more inflammation and weaker bones. That's one reason why some individuals with arthritis feel better when they reduce gluten or limit certain grains. It's not always about the gluten itself. It's about the body's reaction to these plant defense chemicals, which evolution designed to protect seeds from predators, but can also trigger inflammation in humans with compromised gut health. Let's not forget about one of the most ironic triggers: low-fat products. For years, Americans have been told that fat is the enemy. Yet many low-fat yogurts, dressings, and snacks replace fat with sugar or starches to improve taste. These fast-digesting carbohydrates spike blood sugar levels, and high blood sugar directly increases inflammatory cytokines, the chemical messengers that aggravate joint tissues. This is why people often notice that their arthritis worsens when they indulge in healthy, low-fat treats. They're reducing fat, yes, but also starving their joints of the good fats needed to repair cartilage while flooding their system with sugar. And what about the morning ritual so many of us cherish? Coffee. While moderate coffee consumption can have anti-inflammatory benefits, too much caffeine or sugary coffee drinks can elevate cortisol levels, stressing the body and weakening joint resilience over time. The problem is not coffee itself, but the combination of additives, creamers, and sweeteners many people use. Non-dairy creamers, for instance, are often made with hydrogenated oils, a form of trans fat that's directly linked to inflammation and stiffness. So even that comforting cup of healthy coffee with oat milk might be nudging your inflammation higher every morning. There's also a subtler influence, the emotional link between food and inflammation. When you eat under stress, when your body is tense or anxious, your digestion slows, your gut permeability increases, and inflammatory molecules circulate more easily. This is why some people can tolerate certain foods on vacation, but not at home. Their nervous system determines how the immune system reacts. And that means healing arthritis is not just about removing harmful foods, it's also about restoring calm to the body that digests them. All of this may sound overwhelming at first, as if every food on your plate might betray you. But the goal is not fear, it's awareness. Because awareness gives you choice, and choice gives you power. Once you understand that even popular healthy foods can have hidden inflammatory effects, you can begin to observe your body with sharper attention. You can start to notice which meals make you feel lighter, which mornings bring less stiffness, which snacks seem to increase swelling. That awareness alone can transform your health more than any supplement. Science is finally catching up to what many people intuitively know, that the root of chronic pain often lies in chronic inflammation, and that inflammation is not just caused by what we add to our diet, but also by what we believe to be good, without questioning it. Studies show that people who consume a higher ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats, or who eat more processed plant foods, have higher markers of C-reactive protein, one of the key indicators of systemic inflammation. And when those markers rise, joint pain tends to follow. The truth is, the modern food industry has mastered the art of health washing. It can take any processed product, sprinkle in some flaxseed or vitamins, and market it as wellness. But your body is wiser than marketing. It recognizes the difference between real nourishment and engineered convenience. When it senses imbalance, it responds with inflammation. Not to punish you, but to protect you. The swelling, the heat, the stiffness, these are your body's alarms. They're saying, something in here is not right. If you listen, if you pause long enough to trace those signals back to what you're eating, you'll begin to see the patterns. Maybe your pain flares up after a certain smoothie brand, or a particular salad dressing, or a favorite granola bar. These patterns are clues, and once you follow them, you reclaim something powerful. The ability to soothe your inflammation not with painkillers, but with awareness. Because the foods that worsen arthritis are not random. They follow logic. They are high in sugars, industrial oils, and gut-disrupting compounds. And all of these ingredients are far more common in healthy foods than you've been led to believe. The journey begins with curiosity. To ask, could this be affecting me? To test, to observe, to remove, to feel the difference. Within weeks, many people who make even small changes, swapping seed oils for olive oil, replacing oat milk with homemade almond milk, reducing dried fruit, balancing omega-3s, begin to feel relief, less morning stiffness, less swelling, a sense that their body is finally exhaling after years of quiet tension. That is the body's way of saying thank you. And that's where understanding begins. You don't have to fear food, you just have to know which healthy foods are silently feeding your arthritis. Because when you know, you can change. And when you change, healing follows. The danger with arthritis is not just that it hurts, it's that it deceives you. It creeps in slowly, disguising itself as fatigue, stiffness, or normal aging. You tell yourself it's fine, that it's just the weather or the way you slept. But beneath the surface, your immune system is quietly overreacting, sending inflammatory messengers to tissues that were once smooth and flexible. What most people don't realize is that certain healthy foods, the ones promoted by advertisements and even some doctors, can feed that overreaction, keeping your joints trapped in a low-grade fire that never fully goes out. This is not about junk food or fast food. It's about foods that wear a disguise of virtue. Foods that appear to protect your heart but secretly burden your joints. When you think of inflammation, you might imagine it as a visible swelling, a red patch, a bruise, but the kind that damages your joints is invisible. It's a molecular storm, tiny immune cells releasing cytokines and enzymes that eat away at cartilage. These messengers respond to signals your diet sends every single day. Every sip of a healthy juice loaded with hidden sugars. Every salad topped with vegetable oils that were once extracted under heat and pressure. Every spoon of low-fat yogurt packed with stabilizers. Over time, these small triggers accumulate. They don't cause pain immediately, but they shape your internal chemistry until one morning, you wake up and realize you've lost the ease of movement you once took for granted. Science shows this process begins long before symptoms appear. The first phase of joint inflammation often starts in the gut. The gut is not just a digestive tube, it's an ecosystem of bacteria, immune cells, and delicate tissue that decides what belongs in your body and what doesn't. When you eat foods that disrupt this balance, like highly processed oils or excessive fructose, the gut barrier becomes porous. Tiny particles, undigested food molecules, bacterial fragments slip into your bloodstream. Your immune system sees them as invaders and launches an attack. But that attack doesn't stay localized, it travels. The inflammatory molecules circulate through your blood, settling in your weakest points, often your joints. That's where the cycle begins: irritation, immune response, pain. Let's talk about omega-6 fatty acids again, because this is where many well-meaning people are misled. You've been told to avoid saturated fats, butter, animal fat, lard, and to replace them with light vegetable oils like corn, soybean, safflower, and sunflower. But here's the problem. These oils, though plant-based, are chemically fragile. During processing, they're exposed to high temperatures and oxygen, which cause them to oxidize. Oxidized oils generate compounds that act like toxins inside the body, substances that your immune system treats as foreign. Once consumed, they promote the production of inflammatory molecules called leukotrienes and prostaglandins, the very chemicals that make your joints throb. The irony is that in trying to protect your heart, you may be feeding your pain. This imbalance has become so widespread that researchers now refer to it as the omega imbalance epidemic. Decades ago, the human diet had roughly a 1-to-1 balance between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Today, that ratio is closer to 20-to-1, and since omega-6 fats are pro-inflammatory, that imbalance tilts the entire immune system toward chronic inflammation. You might think, but I eat salmon and walnuts. Yet if your pantry also contains vegetable oils, processed salad dressings, or packaged healthy snacks, the effect of those few omega-3 foods becomes drowned out by the flood of omega-6s. Consider oat milk, one of the fastest-growing healthy alternatives for those trying to avoid dairy. It's smooth, creamy, and vegan. But here's the hidden danger. Most oat milks contain added oils, emulsifiers, and stabilizers to replicate the mouthfeel of dairy. These additives may seem harmless, but many of them, like carrageenan, gellan gum, or sunflower oil, are inflammatory triggers. Carrageenan in particular has been shown in studies to irritate the gut lining and provoke immune activation, the very pathway that leads to joint inflammation. The more you drink it, the more your body stays in a low-level state of alert, responding as if it's under attack. And what about that granola bar you keep in your bag? The one labeled high-fiber, low cholesterol, made with natural ingredients. It likely contains refined oats, vegetable oil, honey, or agave syrup, a perfect storm of high glycemic sugar and omega-6 fat. You eat it thinking you're making a smart choice, but your blood sugar spikes within minutes. Elevated blood sugar increases glycation, a process in which sugar molecules stick to proteins in your body, making them stiff and dysfunctional. When that happens to the collagen in your joints, the result is stiffness and reduced elasticity. Over time, these glycation end products accumulate, making your cartilage less resilient, your tendons more brittle, your recovery slower. This is how arthritis worsens quietly, not through trauma or sudden damage, but through repeated chemical insults. The inflammatory molecules your body produces after each healthy snack or smoothie don't vanish, they linger. Cytokines like TNF-alpha and interleukin-6, circulate through your system, priming your immune cells for more inflammation. Each meal acts as another wave in a tide that never recedes. That's why so many people over 50 feel like their pain has a rhythm, some days good, others worse, depending on what they've eaten or how their digestion feels. Now imagine the common Mediterranean-style lunch many older adults adopt: whole grain bread, hummus, olive oil, roasted peppers, and perhaps a side of fruit. It sounds perfect until you look closer. The hummus often contains refined seed oils. The bread might include gluten and yeast that trigger mild immune responses in sensitive individuals. The peppers, members of the nightshade family, can irritate joints in those predisposed to inflammation. And if the fruit is tropical or dried, its fructose content can raise uric acid, intensifying swelling. Even olive oil, though one of the healthiest fats, must be extra virgin and cold-pressed to retain its anti-inflammatory properties. Once it's refined or blended, those benefits fade. So a meal that looks wholesome on the surface can, under the microscope of inflammation, be quite the opposite. This is not about guilt or blame. It's about awareness. The food industry thrives on confusion. The idea that you need packaged health to stay healthy. They take whole ingredients, strip them down, reassemble them, and label the result natural. But your body doesn't read labels. It reads chemistry. It responds to molecular signals and fats, sugars, proteins, and additives that either soothe or inflame. If you have arthritis, you are more sensitive to these signals than most. Your body has already proven it reacts strongly to irritation. And when those irritants come from your food, the immune system responds with the same intensity it would against an infection. One of the biggest culprits is refined carbohydrates disguised as health foods. Take brown rice crackers, quinoa chips, or low-fat muffins. These foods may have fewer calories than traditional snacks, but they digest rapidly, spiking insulin and blood sugar. Each spike triggers the release of advanced glycation end products, sticky molecules that accumulate in joint tissue. These AGs not only stiffen collagen, but also activate receptors on immune cells, intensifying inflammation. The process is slow, invisible, but relentless. Equally deceptive are healthy desserts sweetened with agave or coconut sugar. They sound natural, but they still elevate fructose levels dramatically. Fructose metabolism produces uric acid as a byproduct, and uric acid crystals in the joints act like splinters that never heal. That's why some people find their arthritis flares after indulging in natural sweets, even if they've eliminated processed sugar. Their body makes no distinction. Chemistry is chemistry. Another silent aggravator is soy, often consumed through tofu, soy milk, or plant-based protein powders. Soy contains phytoestrogens and goitrogens, compounds that mimic hormones, and can interfere with thyroid function when consumed in excess. Since the thyroid regulates metabolism and inflammation, an imbalance here can increase joint pain indirectly. Moreover, most soy grown today is genetically modified and treated with pesticides, which add another layer of toxicity for sensitive immune systems. Even when labeled organic, soy can be heavily processed, altering its protein structure in ways that confuse the immune response. And then there's the issue of portion size. Many people assume that if something is healthy, more is better. They add handfuls of nuts, pour extra olive oil, double up on smoothies. But when inflammation is your concern, excess calories, even from good sources, can fuel oxidative stress. Every calorie is energy, and every unit of energy must be metabolized. The byproducts of metabolism, if not balanced by antioxidants, generate free radicals. These unstable molecules attack cells, including those in your joints. Over time, the oxidative stress becomes a companion to inflammation, making your arthritis more resistant to healing. It's also important to mention the role of hidden sodium and additives in healthy packaged foods. Many low-calorie soups, plant-based broths, and vegetable mixes are high in sodium glutamate, a flavor enhancer that excites neurons but also triggers inflammatory cascades. MSG may not harm everyone, but for those with arthritis, it can exacerbate nerve sensitivity, amplifying the perception of pain. Combined with preservatives like sodium benzoate or potassium sorbate, the result is a steady chemical exposure that irritates tissues over time. Your body, in its wisdom, tries to adapt. It sends repair cells, builds scar tissue, and stiffens the affected areas to protect them. But this protective response backfires. The stiffness you feel in the morning, the cracking sound in your knees, the ache when you bend, these are signs of overprotection. The immune system, overwhelmed by dietary inflammation, fortifies your joints the only way it knows how, with swelling and fibrotic tissue. That's why anti-inflammatory medications can only provide temporary relief. They suppress symptoms without addressing the constant stream of dietary signals keeping the inflammation alive. There's also the emotional layer. Every flare of pain creates frustration. You feel betrayed by your body, and in that stress, cortisol rises, the stress hormone that ironically worsens inflammation. Stress changes digestion, weakens gut integrity, and slows healing. And when you combine emotional stress with dietary stress, when you eat in a hurry, snack out of guilt, or restrict too harshly, your body experiences double inflammation, one from the food, one from your feelings. This is why sustainable change requires not just better eating, but gentler living. You must eat from a place of calm, not fear. One of the most striking scientific findings in recent years is the link between gut microbiota and joint inflammation. The microbes in your intestines communicate with your immune system constantly. When fed with fiber, polyphenols, and omega-3 fats, they produce anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. But when they're fed with emulsifiers, sugars, and refined starches, they produce endotoxins that leak into circulation and trigger joint pain. That's why even foods that appear healthy, such as flavored yogurts, processed grains, or prepackaged smoothies, can cause discomfort if they disturb your microbial balance. The gut is not just a digestive organ, it's your immune control center. If it's inflamed, your joints will be too. As you can see, the risk is not just about one bad food, it's about patterns. Patterns of imbalance, of excess, of trust misplaced in marketing. Arthritis thrives on chronic exposure. It feeds on the repetition of small mistakes that seem harmless. The handful of dried fruit, the splash of oat milk, the drizzle of healthy oil. Each one adds a drop to the bucket until the bucket overflows, and that overflow is inflammation. But here's the crucial insight. Arthritis is not inevitable. It is not a punishment for age. It is the result of biological signals that can be changed. Once you learn to read those signals, once you understand that your pain is not random but a message, you begin to reclaim control. The foods that worsen arthritis are not villains on their own. They are simply mismatched to your body's current state. As we age, our metabolism slows, our gut becomes more permeable, our hormone balance shifts. Foods that once nourished us can now irritate us. Recognizing that shift is not defeat, it's wisdom. So the real risk is not the food itself, but the belief that what's labeled healthy must be harmless. That belief blinds you to your body's whispers, the subtle feedback it gives after every meal. The stiffness in your knuckles, the soreness in your hips, the fatigue after lunch, these are not coincidences, they are data. The body never lies. And while this realization can feel unsettling at first, it's also liberating. Because if food can make things worse, it can also make things better. The same chemistry that fuels inflammation can, when balanced correctly, reverse it. But before you reach that healing stage, you must first see the risk clearly. You must see that even the most popular healthy foods can become triggers when eaten without awareness, when processed beyond recognition, or when consumed in the wrong proportions. Only then can you begin the process of reclaiming your joints, your mobility, your vitality. Your body is not broken, it's responsive. It's reacting exactly as it was designed to, and that means it can change the moment you do. Imagine the moment when the pain first began. Maybe it was a dull ache in your knees after a walk. Maybe it was your hands feeling tighter in the morning, the ring that no longer slipped off so easily. At first, it seemed temporary, a small inconvenience, but over time, that discomfort became part of your daily rhythm. Almost like background music you couldn't turn off. You adjusted your movements, you avoided stares, you stopped doing certain things because it just wasn't worth the pain anymore. And yet, deep down, something in you wonders why it keeps getting worse. Even though you've tried to eat better, even though you've followed the rules that were supposed to help. The truth is that what happens inside the arthritic body is not just mechanical wear and tear, it's biochemical chaos, a symphony of small molecular mistakes that slowly erode the body's ease. And much of that chaos begins with food that looks perfectly healthy on your plate. To truly understand the impact, you must visualize what's happening inside your joints at this very moment. Picture the ends of your bones, once cushioned by smooth, slippery cartilage that allowed you to move effortlessly. Over the years, repeated inflammation has made that cartilage thinner, drier, more brittle. The once clear synovial fluid, your joint's natural lubricant, now contains inflammatory molecules that make it more acidic, less protective. The cells that line your joints, called synoviocytes, begin to overproduce enzymes to clean up the damage. But those enzymes, like overzealous workers, start dissolving healthy tissue too. Your immune system senses debris and rushes in more white blood cells. The result is swelling, pressure, and pain, a process that feeds on itself. Now imagine that this entire system is being fed daily by what you eat. That each meal sends either healing compounds or inflammatory signals into your bloodstream. When you consume foods high in omega-6 fatty acids, like vegetable oils, your liver converts them into arachidonic acid, the precursor to inflammatory prostaglandins. Those prostaglandins reach your joints through circulation, activating enzymes that degrade collagen. Over time, that degradation makes cartilage thinner. With less cushioning, bones begin to rub against one another, producing microscopic fractures. The body senses this as injury, releases more inflammatory chemicals, and the cycle continues. Every tablespoon of oil, every handful of processed nuts, every packaged heart-healthy snack can add another spark to this internal fire. Think of sugar, not the obvious kind in candy or soda, but the hidden sugars in smoothies, energy bars, and fruit juices. When sugar enters your bloodstream in excess, it reacts with proteins in your cartilage through a process called glycation. This forms advanced glycation end products, AGEs. These AGEs make tissues stiff and brittle, just like caramel hardens sugar on a pan. When this happens inside your joints, flexibility fades. Collagen loses its spring. The once elastic tissue becomes fragile, and when AGEs bind to their receptors on immune cells, they trigger the release of even more inflammatory cytokines. It's a vicious loop. Sugar stiffens cartilage, inflammation increases stiffness, and stiffness traps you in pain. For people over 50, this process accelerates. Aging slows collagen repair and reduces antioxidant production, leaving your joints more vulnerable to oxidative stress. Free radicals, those unstable oxygen molecules produced during metabolism, attack lipids and proteins in joint tissue, causing more inflammation. Normally, antioxidants from whole foods like berries, greens, and healthy fats would neutralize them. But when your diet is dominated by processed healthy alternatives, refined grains, low-fat dairy substitutes, or over-processed oils, you deprive your body of the nutrients it needs to protect itself. The result is a slow-motion oxidation that corrodes you from the inside, like rust spreading across metal. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at the bigger picture. The average American over 50 consumes hundreds of additives and stabilizers every week: xanthan gum, guar gum, carrageenan, maltodextrin, lecithin. These additives are designed for shelf life, not for human biology. When they reach your intestines, they disrupt the mucus layer that protects your gut lining. This layer is supposed to act like a filter, letting nutrients in and keeping irritants out. But under constant chemical stress, it weakens. Microscopic holes appear, what scientists call intestinal permeability. Through those holes slip bacterial fragments and undigested food particles, which the immune system sees as intruders. It reacts immediately, releasing inflammatory molecules into the bloodstream. These molecules travel everywhere, to your heart, your brain, your skin, and especially to your joints where they intensify pain and swelling. This is why arthritis is rarely just a local problem. It's systemic. It's the body's full orchestra of inflammation playing out across multiple organs. When you eat an inflammatory meal, the gut feels it first. Then the liver tries to process the flood of compounds, generating oxidative stress. The bloodstream carries the inflammatory messengers onward, and the joints, already fragile and poorly vascularized, absorb the brunt of the damage. It's like a flood passing through a valley. The lowest areas always take the longest to dry. Now think about the foods that contribute to this internal storm. When you eat fruit juices or sweetened yogurts, your blood sugar spikes, then crashes. During the spike, insulin surges, triggering pathways that stimulate inflammation. During the crash, cortisol, your stress hormone, rises to stabilize you. But cortisol, over time, also breaks down collagen and suppresses joint repair. The body oscillates between high and low, stress and recovery, never finding equilibrium. That biochemical instability makes every twinge of pain feel sharper, every movement more difficult. Even your fat cells contribute to this process. As you age, body fat becomes more metabolically active. It's not just storage, it's a hormone factory. When you consume foods that keep insulin levels high, like whole grain cereals or energy bars, your body stores more fat. Those fat cells, in turn, release cytokines called adipokines, which directly increase joint inflammation. This means arthritis pain isn't only about your bones, it's about your metabolism. The more your body stays in an inflamed metabolic state, the more pain signals your brain receives, even when no new damage is happening. Let's step deeper into the science for a moment. When omega-6 fats dominate your diet, they alter the structure of your cell membranes. Every cell in your body, including those in your joints, has a membrane made of fats. The balance between omega-3 and omega-6 fats determines whether those membranes are flexible or rigid. A flexible membrane allows nutrients and signals to pass smoothly. A rigid one traps inflammation inside. So when your diet is full of processed oils, your cells literally become stiffer, and that stiffness mirrors the stiffness you feel in your body. It's not just a metaphor, it's chemistry turning into sensation. Now add the effects of uric acid, a compound produced when your body breaks down fructose and certain purines. When uric acid levels rise, it crystallizes in joints as tiny, needle-like formations. These crystals don't dissolve easily. They pierce tissue, triggering intense immune reactions. Even if you don't have full-blown gout, mild elevations in uric acid can worsen arthritis symptoms, especially in the knees and toes. And where does most of this excess uric acid come from? Not from red meat, as many believe, but from high-fructose healthy foods, fruit concentrates, dried fruits, and agave syrup. Meanwhile, the gut continues to send its distress signals. An inflamed gut changes the way your immune system behaves everywhere else. Studies show that people with rheumatoid arthritis often have different gut bacteria than healthy individuals. Fewer anti-inflammatory species, more pro-inflammatory ones. These bacteria feed on the foods you eat. When you give them sugars and processed fibers, the harmful species thrive. When you starve them of real fiber from vegetables and resistant starches, the protective species die off. It's like feeding weeds instead of flowers. Over time, the gut becomes a breeding ground for inflammation, and the immune system becomes hypersensitive, reacting not just to bacteria, but to your own tissues. That's the heart of autoimmune arthritis, confusion at the cellular level, fueled by what's on your plate. But the impact of inflammation isn't only physical, it's emotional. Chronic pain changes the way your brain works. It lowers serotonin, increases anxiety, and disrupts sleep. Poor sleep, in turn, raises inflammatory hormones. It's a cruel cycle. Pain breeds stress, stress breeds inflammation, and inflammation breeds more pain. And when you try to eat better to break free, the very foods marketed as healthy can betray you, keeping you trapped in that biochemical cage. Imagine a woman in her late 50s, disciplined about her health. Every morning she starts her day with a smoothie, spinach, banana, almond milk, a drizzle of honey, and a scoop of protein powder. She believes it's healing her. But inside, the fructose from the banana and honey raises her uric acid. The almond milk adds emulsifiers that irritate her gut. The protein powder, made from soy isolate, triggers her immune system. The combination creates a perfect storm of inflammation. She doesn't connect it to her knees aching later that day, or her fingers swelling slightly at night. To her, it's just aging. But to her body, its chemistry responding precisely to input. Over months and years, this silent chemistry shapes her experience. Her cartilage cells, chondrocytes, become less active, producing less collagen. The tiny blood vessels that feed her joints constrict under constant inflammation. Oxygen delivery drops. Without oxygen, tissue repair slows. Waste products accumulate. The joint environment becomes acidic, corrosive. Meanwhile, the brain becomes more sensitive to pain signals, a process called central sensitization. That's why even mild discomfort starts feeling severe. The nervous system, tired of constant alerts, turns up the volume. The real tragedy is how preventable much of this is. The body is not malicious, it's reactive. It responds logically to the conditions it's given. Feed it inflammatory compounds, and it will inflame. Feed it antioxidants, and it will repair. But most people never see the connection clearly, because inflammation doesn't act fast. If eating a certain snack caused immediate joint pain, you'd stop at once. But the damage unfolds gradually, so it feels abstract. 1 meal doesn't hurt. 10 meals don't either. But 10 years do. Every time your immune system mounts a small inflammatory response, it leaves behind tiny scars, molecular memories of stress. Over time, those scars accumulate in joints, in blood vessels, in connective tissue. They thicken, they calcify, they age you from within. That's why arthritis isn't just a joint disease. It's a mirror of your body's overall inflammatory state. If your joints are in pain, chances are your blood vessels, your skin, your organs are experiencing the same silent stress. But here's something remarkable. Just as inflammation can spread, so can healing. When you begin removing the triggers, your body responds almost immediately. Within days of lowering sugar intake, inflammatory markers begin to fall. Within weeks of improving your fat balance, cell membranes regain flexibility. Within months, cartilage damage can slow or even partially reverse. Pain decreases not because of magic, but because the immune system stops misfiring. The fires go out. Before that healing phase begins, however, you must face the full weight of what inflammation has done, not to feel guilty, but to feel motivated. You must see that every processed, healthy food you've trusted may have been teaching your immune system to overreact. Every label that promised wellness may have been quietly whispering inflammation, and the body, always obedient, has simply followed the script. When you understand that your pain is not random, that it's a predictable response to certain biochemical signals, you regain something most people lose after 50, a sense of control. Arthritis is not destiny, it's dialogue. Your body is speaking to you through your joints, through your stiffness, through your fatigue. It's saying, "I'm overwhelmed. Help me find balance." And balance begins not in a pill, not in a cream, but in your plate, in what you choose to send into your bloodstream each day. The impact of these dietary choices extends beyond physical pain. It affects identity. People with chronic arthritis often begin to define themselves by their limitations, what they can no longer do, what they've lost. But once you understand the food connection, you realize that this identity is reversible. The same chemistry that brought you pain can bring you relief. The same habits that aged you can renew you. The same inflammation that stiffened your body can soften it again. And perhaps that's the most important truth of all. The body never stops listening. Even after years of damage, it still responds to kindness, to awareness, to better choices. It's never too late to turn the signals around. But first, you have to recognize how deeply the wrong, healthy foods have shaped your body's story, from your joints to your mood to your energy. That realization, though uncomfortable, is the doorway to change, because once you see clearly how this works, once you imagine those tiny molecules moving through your blood, either soothing or igniting your pain, you'll never look at food the same way again. You'll start seeing meals not as fuel but as medicine or poison, depending on their chemistry. And that awareness alone begins to heal you. There comes a moment in every healing journey when understanding finally turns into clarity. The fog of confusion, the endless cycle of pain, treatment, and disappointment begins to lift. You realize that the body is not your enemy. It never was. It's simply been trying to protect you, to adapt, to survive the constant chemical noise it's been exposed to. Once you stop feeding that noise, Everything begins to shift. The swelling that felt permanent begins to calm. The mornings that used to start with stiffness begin to feel lighter. Movement, once met with resistance, starts to flow again. That's not coincidence. That's chemistry responding to kindness. To calm inflammation, you don't need to live in fear of food. You just need to learn how to choose foods that speak the language of healing, foods that tell your body, you can rest now, you're safe. Because every meal either fuels a fight or restores peace, and your goal now, after years of silent battles, is peace. Real cellular peace. Let's begin where most people overlook, the balance of fats. If you could make only one change to ease arthritis pain, it would be to restore the ratio between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-6 fats, abundant in seed oils, act as fire starters. Omega-3s, found in fatty fish, flax seeds, and chia seeds, act as water. When the balance between them is off, inflammation becomes chronic. But when you begin to restore that ratio, by cooking with extra virgin olive oil instead of vegetable oils, by eating wild salmon or sardines twice a week, by sprinkling ground flaxseed over your meals, your body starts to shift. Cell membranes become flexible again. Immune cells produce fewer inflammatory cytokines. The fire cools down from the inside out. Within just a few weeks of increasing omega-3 intake, studies show measurable reductions in joint pain and stiffness. People often describe it as if someone had oiled their joints. And in a sense, that's exactly what's happening. The molecular structure of omega-3s allows them to be incorporated into joint tissue, literally improving lubrication and elasticity. The difference may be subtle at first, fewer bad mornings, more comfort when bending or climbing stairs, but it builds. Healing is not dramatic, it's quiet consistency. Next, focus on stabilizing your blood sugar. Remember those hidden sugars, the juices, the natural bars, the low-fat yogurts. They've been feeding inflammation with every spike. To reverse that, you need to anchor your meals around slow, steady energy. That means eating whole, unprocessed foods that digest slowly and keep insulin balanced. Replace fruit juices with whole fruits, berries, green apples, pears, in moderation. Choose steel-cut oats or quinoa instead of refined cereals. Add protein and healthy fat to every meal to slow glucose absorption. When your blood sugar stops rising and falling like a roller coaster, your inflammation stabilizes. You might not feel that shift immediately, but it's happening beneath the surface. Stable blood sugar means lower levels of C-reactive protein, one of the key markers of systemic inflammation. Lower blood sugar also means fewer glycation end products stiffening your collagen. That stiffness you once felt in your knees. It's not inevitable. It can soften with time, with the right chemistry, with patience. Another powerful step is healing your gut, the origin of so much immune confusion. Your gut is not just where digestion happens, it's where tolerance is built. It teaches your immune system what to fight and what to ignore. When it's inflamed, that education breaks down. The immune system starts reacting to everything, pollen, foods, even your own tissue. That's why restoring your gut lining is crucial for arthritis relief. Begin by removing the irritants, processed oils, refined sugar, emulsifiers, and artificial sweeteners. Then feed your gut what it truly craves: fiber, polyphenols, and fermented foods. Fiber from vegetables. Avocados and flax seeds act as nourishment for good bacteria. Polyphenols, found in green tea, olive oil, berries, and turmeric, reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, and fermented foods like kefir, sauerkraut, and unsweetened yogurt help repopulate your microbiome with beneficial bacteria that calm the immune system. If you've avoided dairy because it worsened your symptoms, try fermented options with live cultures or goat-based yogurts that are easier to digest. The key is not exclusion, but balance. A diverse gut microbiome means a resilient immune system, and resilience is the opposite of inflammation. When your gut begins to heal, you'll notice more than just less pain. Your energy improves, your mood steadies, your sleep deepens. Because inflammation doesn't just live in your joints, it lives in your mind too. You can also use natural anti-inflammatory compounds to support your healing. Turmeric, specifically its active compound curcumin, has been shown in dozens of studies to reduce joint pain as effectively as some over-the-counter medications without the side effects. Pairing it with black pepper improves absorption dramatically. Ginger too works wonders, reducing inflammatory enzymes like KOX2 that contribute to joint pain. Omega-3s, curcumin, and ginger form a triad of natural relief, one that soothes inflammation from multiple angles. For those who prefer gentle, food-based healing, certain herbs and spices can turn every meal into medicine. Rosemary, thyme, cinnamon, and cloves are rich in antioxidants that neutralize free radicals before they damage your tissues. Garlic and onions support detoxification, helping your liver clear out inflammatory byproducts. And green leafy vegetables, kale, spinach, arugula, deliver magnesium, a mineral that relaxes muscles and regulates inflammation at the cellular level. Another quiet healer is hydration. It seems almost too simple, but many people with arthritis are chronically dehydrated. Synovial fluid, the lubricant inside your joints, depends on water to maintain its cushioning effect. When you're dehydrated, that fluid thickens, losing its glide. The result is more friction, more wear, more pain. Drinking water throughout the day, not just when thirsty, can make a surprising difference. Herbal teas, especially ginger, nettle, and green tea, add an anti-inflammatory bonus. And then there's movement, the medicine most people underestimate. When your joints hurt, the last thing you want to do is move. But gentle movement is one of the most effective ways to calm inflammation. Every time you move, you stimulate circulation, delivering oxygen and nutrients to your joints while flushing out waste. Think of it as rinsing your body from the inside. Low-impact activities, walking, swimming, yoga, tai chi, encourage flexibility without strain. They also lower cortisol, the stress hormone that fuels inflammation. Many people notice that after consistent gentle movement, their pain threshold changes. The stiffness fades faster. The body learns to trust again. That's because movement sends a message to your immune system. This body is safe. Inflammation thrives in stagnation, both physical and emotional. So, when you begin moving, breathing, and releasing tension, you're not just exercising. You're teaching your body to stop overreacting. You might be wondering about supplements, whether there's a magic pill that can undo years of inflammation. The truth is, there's no single pill, but there are powerful allies. Vitamin D, for instance, regulates immune function and helps reduce inflammatory markers. Magnesium supports over 300 biochemical reactions, including those that control pain signaling. Collagen peptides can support cartilage repair, and glucosamine with chondroitin may slow cartilage degradation. But supplements work best when the foundation, your diet and lifestyle, supports them. You cannot out-supplement a diet that's still feeding inflammation. As you shift your habits, something else begins to happen. Your relationship with food transforms. You stop eating reactively, out of habit or emotion, and begin eating intentionally. You start noticing how your body feels after each meal, lighter, calmer, or heavier, tighter. You learn your own signals. This awareness turns eating into a conversation with your body. You ask, and it answers. And when you listen, healing becomes effortless. For many, the first signs of relief appear subtly. You wake up one morning and realize your hands don't feel as swollen. You walk farther without discomfort. You sleep through the night without waking up from pain. Those small victories mean your body is recalibrating. Inflammation is subsiding. Tissues are repairing. Balance is returning. To support that process further, manage stress deliberately. Chronic stress is inflammation's twin flame. Meditation, deep breathing, and spending time in nature lower cortisol and improve immune regulation. Even 5 minutes of slow breathing can reduce inflammation markers. Remember, inflammation is a response to perceived threat. When you calm your mind, your body receives the message that it's safe to heal. Sunlight, too, is medicine. Natural light regulates circadian rhythm, improves mood, and boosts vitamin D, all essential for joint health. Spending time outdoors, moving gently in sunlight, combines multiple anti-inflammatory benefits in one ritual. Sleep is the final pillar of relief. While you rest, your body performs its deepest repairs, producing growth hormones, clearing toxins, and reducing inflammation. Without sufficient sleep, those processes stall. Create a nighttime routine that prioritizes rest, dim lights, cool temperatures, no screens an hour before bed. Magnesium or herbal teas can help ease you into sleep naturally. When you wake up well-rested, inflammation has less power over you. Remember, the goal isn't perfection. Healing is not about strict rules or fear of certain foods. It's about awareness, balance, and consistency. The occasional indulgence won't undo your progress if your foundation is strong. What matters most is the overall pattern, the daily choices that signal safety to your body, the nutrients that build resilience, the calm that quiets your immune system. As you continue on this path, your body begins to trust you again. Your immune system, once hyperactive, becomes precise. Your gut lining strengthens. Your cells communicate clearly. Inflammation no longer dominates the conversation. Harmony does. And that harmony feels like freedom. You'll know you've entered this stage of healing when your relationship with food feels peaceful, when the grocery store no longer overwhelms you with choices, when meals become moments of nourishment rather than confusion, when your body's messages, hunger, fullness, energy, comfort, feel clear again. That is relief not only from pain but from fear, because arthritis was never just about your joints. It was about the disconnection between your choices and your body's needs. Now that connection is restored. You're no longer fighting your body, you're cooperating with it, and that cooperation changes everything. Over time, this peace spreads. Less pain means more movement. More movement means better circulation. Better circulation means faster healing. Your confidence grows, your posture shifts, your energy returns. You begin to realize that aging doesn't have to mean decline. It can mean refinement, a deeper understanding of what truly keeps you alive and well. And when you share what you've learned with others, when you tell someone that the pain they think is inevitable might actually be optional, you become part of something bigger. You become proof that healing after 50 is not only possible, but powerful. This stage of relief is not an end, it's a beginning. A new rhythm of life where your meals heal you, your habits sustain you, and your body trusts you again. There is a moment, subtle but unmistakable, when your body finally exhales. The tension that once lived inside your joints loosens its grip. The morning stiffness that once dictated your pace begins to fade. You realize that healing is not an abstract hope. It is a real physical transformation that you can feel in the simplest motions. Reaching for a glass, walking up a step, stretching your hand without hesitation. That moment is more than relief. It's recognition. It's your body acknowledging that it's finally being understood. Empowerment begins right there, in the realization that every choice you make has power. Every meal, every thought, every night of rest, every deep breath is a form of communication with your body. And the body always listens. Always. For decades, the narrative around aging has been shaped by resignation. People are told that pain is inevitable, that energy fades, that flexibility vanishes, that youth is something you lose. But those are myths born from misunderstanding biology. The truth is that aging does not equal deterioration. It equals accumulation of experiences, of wisdom, of habits. When those habits shift, the trajectory of your health shifts with them. For the person over 50 who once believed arthritis was a life sentence, this new awareness is revolutionary. You now know that pain is not punishment, it's feedback. You've learned that inflammation is not chaos, it's communication. And once you listen, truly listen, your body stops shouting. It begins to whisper again. That whisper is healing. Empowerment is not about chasing perfection. It's about knowing what matters most. The power of food, the balance of movement, the serenity of rest, the patience of self-kindness. These are the pillars that sustain vitality. And what's remarkable is how quickly the body responds when treated with respect. Within months of consistent balance, fewer inflammatory foods, more whole nourishment, better hydration, deeper rest, your entire internal chemistry recalibrates. Hormones balance, inflammation markers drop, circulation improves, and the nervous system settles into calm. Think of it like tuning an orchestra that's been playing out of sync. At first, all you hear is noise, the confusion of competing signals, the dissonance of stress, poor diet, and fatigue. But as you align one section at a time, nutrition, sleep, movement, mindset, the music begins to change. The notes blend, the rhythm steadies, and suddenly your body begins to perform in harmony again. That harmony is health. It's not just your joints that feel this shift. Your skin begins to glow differently. Your energy returns in the morning without caffeine. Your digestion feels lighter. Even your mood softens, the weight of pain no longer casting a shadow over every interaction. This is what anti-inflammation truly means, not just the absence of swelling, but the presence of ease, the return of vitality. As you walk through this new phase of life, your confidence becomes your compass. You start trusting your instincts again, that quiet inner knowing that tells you what nourishes and what harms. You become attuned to subtleties, how certain foods make you feel within an hour, how certain environments calm or agitate your body, how emotions influence your digestion. That awareness transforms you from a passive patient into an active participant in your own wellness. You realize that health is not something you chase, it's something you cultivate. It's a relationship, one that grows stronger with attention and care. The old belief that the doctor holds the answers fades away, replaced by a gentler truth. You hold many of them yourself. Doctors can guide, science can inform, but healing is something only your body can do, when given the right conditions. There's a quiet pride that comes with this understanding. You no longer feel helpless in the face of pain. You know that if inflammation rises, you can calm it. If fatigue creeps in, you can restore energy through nourishment, not stimulants. If stress returns, you can breathe, stretch, and release it before it poisons your chemistry. That's empowerment, not the absence of struggle, but mastery over response. Imagine your joints now, slowly repairing, regaining flexibility. The cells once dominated by inflammation are now rebuilding. Collagen fibers realign. Cartilage regains its smoothness. Circulation carries oxygen and nutrients to every corner of your body, sweeping away the remnants of years of inflammation. The body doesn't forget how to heal. It simply waits for the conditions to be right. You might look at your hands or your knees and remember the years of discomfort. But now, you see them differently. You see them as teachers, parts of you that endured pain to send a message strong enough to change your life. Pain, in this sense, becomes a guide. It led you toward awareness. It forced you to slow down, to listen, to respect the body you once ignored. And in that awareness lies wisdom. With time, something beautiful happens. You no longer live in fear of relapse. You no longer see every ache as a setback. You understand that the body fluctuates, that health is dynamic, that balance is maintained through rhythm, not rigidity. A glass of wine on a celebration won't undo you. A day of indulgence won't destroy you. Because now you know how to return to center. You've built a foundation, steady, intelligent, forgiving. And with this foundation comes freedom. Freedom from the confusion of health trends. Freedom from the noise of conflicting advice. Freedom from the idea that age must limit you. You become an example, not of perfection, but of resilience. People notice it. They see how you move differently, how your energy feels grounded yet alive. They ask what changed, and you smile, because the answer is simple but profound. You started listening. This newfound empowerment doesn't stop at the body. It reaches into how you think, how you relate to others, how you see time. Pain once made you cautious, hesitant, afraid to plan for the future. But as it fades, so does the fear. You begin to dream again. You start imagining the next decade not with anxiety, but with curiosity. You realize that longevity is not about living long, but living well, with clarity, mobility, and purpose. Every healed joint becomes a metaphor for something deeper: flexibility of mind, resilience of spirit, adaptability of heart. You begin to notice that as your body heals, so does your outlook. You become more patient, more compassionate, not just toward yourself, but toward others. You understand that everyone is fighting a battle you can't see, that everyone's inflammation, physical or emotional, has a story behind it. That empathy is what true health gives you, not just strong joints, but a strong sense of connection. Because when you live without pain, you have more energy to give, you engage more deeply, love more freely, move more confidently. Your health no longer isolates you, it connects you. And that connection extends to your future self. You start planning not just for survival, but for joy. You picture yourself hiking without discomfort, playing with grandchildren, traveling, gardening, dancing. You realize that vitality after 50 isn't a fantasy. It's biology responding to attention. You've proven that inflammation is reversible, that aging can be graceful, that energy can return. And in that proof, your faith in your body deepens. As you continue nourishing this relationship, you start to see your meals as rituals, not routines. You eat with presence, you chew slowly. You savor flavors not for indulgence, but for gratitude. Every meal becomes an act of partnership, you and your body working together toward balance. Even setbacks, when they come, no longer derail you. If you wake up one day with stiffness, you know it's temporary. You ask yourself what might have triggered it. Poor sleep, stress, perhaps a food you haven't eaten in a while. You adjust gently, without panic, because now you know the pattern. You know how to bring your body back to calm. That confidence is priceless. Science calls this homeostasis, the body's ability to maintain balance through adaptation. But on a human level, it feels like peace. And peace, when you've lived in pain, feels miraculous. Empowerment also means protecting your newfound vitality. You become discerning, not paranoid, but wise. You read labels differently, noticing the oils, the sugars, the additives you once ignored. You start asking questions, not out of fear, but out of respect for the body that's carried you through decades. You understand that food is information, and you've become fluent in its language. You begin to share your journey with others, not as preaching, but as quiet encouragement. A friend complains of knee pain, and you gently mention the connection to diet. A family member struggles with fatigue, and you suggest looking at sugar intake. You don't insist, you inspire. Your calm confidence becomes your message. You embody what you've learned, that healing isn't about restriction, but about awareness, not about punishment, but about partnership. Over time, you notice something even deeper, that the principles that healed your body also heal your life. Balance, consistency, gentleness, awareness. When applied to relationships, to work, to stress, they produce the same effect, harmony. You become proof that healing the physical self can awaken the emotional and spiritual self. The person you are now is not the same person who once feared arthritis. You've evolved. You've shifted from victim to observer, from observer to participant, from participant to master. You've learned to respect your body not for its appearance, but for its communication. You've learned that health is not a destination, but a dialogue, one that never ends, one that deepens with every breath, every meal, every moment of gratitude. And so, you live differently now. You move with awareness, you rest with intention, you eat with purpose, you speak to yourself kindly. You understand that longevity is not granted, it's cultivated. Every day is a chance to reinforce the message your body now believes, that it is safe, nourished, and loved. The beauty of empowerment is that it's contagious. When you embody it, others sense it. They see that aging can be vibrant, that health can be reclaimed, that hope is not naive. It's biochemical. You become a quiet revolution, proof that it's never too late to feel good again. The foods that once hurt you are no longer temptations. They are lessons. You no longer crave what once inflamed you, because your body, in its wisdom, no longer asks for pain. It asks for balance, and you answer. That is the essence of this journey. Not fear of disease, but reverence for vitality. You no longer chase youth, you nurture wellness. You no longer count the years. You count the moments of comfort, strength, and joy. And with each passing day, you realize something profound. Aging isn't about losing time, it's about gaining understanding. So as you move forward, remember this truth: your body is always listening. Speak to it with kindness, feed it with care, move it with grace, rest it with love, and it will reward you, not just with less pain, but with more life. Because in the end, the greatest medicine is not found in a capsule or a clinic. It's found in the choices you make every day, in the awareness you bring to your own existence, in the courage to change and the patience to heal. That is the secret to living well beyond 50. Not resistance, not denial, but harmony. And once you find that harmony, once your body and mind move as one again, you'll know the truth that every doctor, every teacher, every healer has always known deep down, that health was never lost. It was only waiting for you to come back home.